And you, you are looking live at Sold Out Giant Stadium, where today the 15-0 New York Giants are taking on the 0-15 Philadelphia Eagles. Why the Philadelphia Eagles 0-15? Because they suck. And welcome to the Gridiron. Anybody at all gonna spend some time with me here tonight? I greatly appreciate it. Watch the replay of this. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for just taking a little bit of time out of your day or night, wherever you're at, to spend some time with me. Feel free to drop a question or a remark or anything in the chats at all. We're going to go about 30 minutes, the way I try to usually do here. I got a couple articles I want to go over here. First one, there's 4 guys that stood out in the preseason game. One of, obviously we know Alex Bachman, Turner Overdrive, Davis Webb, right? But the first one that they have here, they got an article here from, I guess it's Fansided. I talk about 4 players who stood out in the Giants win versus the Bengals. Now, this one is good to hear. Okay, very, very good to hear. All right. They pointed out was Evan Neal. Okay, had a very, he had kind of a disappointing game against the Patriots last week, but they said the number 7 overall pick, Evan Neal, bounced back well versus the Bengals. You kind of hope so because, the Bengals sat their starters, right? So, you really don't want to hear him struggling against a second or third string defensive player. So, but he looked much better. But they got here, but he looked better. Much better, both in pass and run blocking. Okay, which obviously is great to see, as I said, especially because he wasn't going up against top-notch competition. All right. Last week, Neal struggled sometimes with his balance, overstepping on occasions, which you can't do, and ended up on on the ground, which you can't do. However, this was almost non-existent in going up against Cincinnati. We're not saying Neal was perfect, but compared to last week, he was much better. So, he's got a lot to learn. He's just a rookie. Just for him to step right in there in the NFL and start playing right tackle right away and expecting there not to be any problems at all. That's asking a bit much, but, he's, Andrew Thomas struggled his first season. He had some problems with his feet and his ankles and all that, but he did have some struggles. Okay, but he's getting much better. All right, and I'm sure it might be the same way with Evan Neal as well. He might have his struggles this year, but as time goes on, he'll get better and better and better, and we'll be like looking back at this, next year or 2 years from now, whatever. Like, man, we got Evan Neal. Man, what a right tackle we got. So. Got to cut him a little bit of slack. Let's see. If Neal could continue to play at a high level prior to start of the regular season, all right, he will likely wipe away the small amount of doubt surrounding his selection so early in the first round. Top of that, it was also provide the fan base with more confidence in him going out and providing strong protection from quarterback Daniel Jones. Yeah, especially I tell you what, I've seen some pictures, and it almost, not quite, almost brought a tear to my eye. The couple of the pictures I saw, pocket protection. The pocket, it was a pocket. You got the the whatever you want to call it, the C, right? That pocket. Daniel Jones just standing in there. It's like, wow, that's a pocket, man. That's something the Giants don't see very often, especially as fans. So, that was very, very impressive. There was another guy I wanted to bring up as well, okay? Obviously, we know Davis Webb did very, very well. And obviously, Alex Bachman, which we're going to lead me up to another story, okay, a little, in a little bit here. But another one was obviously because we had the killer bees, the three running backs were all out. Right, Barkley, Brightwell, and Breida. Right, they were all out. Okay, so we had our. It looked like in the last drive once again they put Sandro Platzgummer in there. But Kwity Corbin was in there, okay, and Antonio Williams. And Corbin did well too, but Antonio Williams was certainly making a name for himself. Very, very, very impressive, right? They got here, all right, Antonio Williams, following his tremendous performance against the Patriots, which he ran the ball 9 times for 61 yards and 1 touchdown. Antonio Williams did not disappoint against the Bengals, making plays on the grounds and through the air. And through the air, he did. While he did not run the ball as much much this week, because the Giants didn't run the ball. They ran the ball 20 times, I believe it was. I think what it was, I think we're trying to throw the ball as much as they could, because they got a lot of wide receivers they're trying to check out and everything, which is not maybe always the best thing if your offensive line is really depleted. I guess they obviously took that into account, and I guess they try to maybe get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quick and all and everything. A lot of quick throws, as you'll see, because with Williams and Corbin, they caught balls, but they only averaged like 6 yards of reception. So they were trying to get the ball out of their hands very, very quickly. But Williams caught 7 passes for 46 yards, a little over 6.5 yards of reception. Okay. In addition to this, he also ran the ball 5 times for 26 yards. So, a little over 5 yards a run there. Okay. Not bad considering he didn't get a ton of carries. Okay. So, I mean, first 2 games, very, very good. Very impressive. It's going to be very interesting to see. You got Barkley in there. What are they doing with Brightwell? Brightwell's had some good moments. Breida, right? I don't think Platzcomber is going to make the team. Maybe practice squad, who knows? But Jashawn Corbin, so they got, they got some weaknesses without question, but running backs is certainly not one of them. I'm very interested to see who they wind up keeping on the roster, right? Something I love about Williams is just how hard he runs for his somewhat small frame. He's always looking to hit the hole as hard as possible and knock someone over. You got to love it. You have to love to see the fight that Williams has. You can really tell he wants to make it in this league. And, it's nice because he gets the ball and he makes it. It's like he makes the decision and he goes north and south. Sometimes that's what Saquon gets himself in trouble with, okay, is when he gets the ball. He might try to dance in the hole a little bit. He tries to stop, whatever. Look, can I bounce it outside? Do I have to run it inside the tackle? Get the ball, go north and south, and, get it, pick up what you can. Okay. Williams really burst onto the scene within the last 2 weeks. It almost feels he is a lock to make the team. However, we believe, now this is the fan-sided, gmenhq.com, fan-sided, okay? It almost feels as if he's locked me. However, we believe that if he really keeps up the high level of play, that he could potentially take over Matt Breida's spot at RB number 2 of the New York Giants. This is going to be something to watch closely over the next few weeks. Okay. So, as I said, it's going to be interesting to see how many running backs they keep on the roster, how many they put on the practice squad, and how many they just wind up letting go. But I tell you what, between Corbin, Brightwell, Breida, and Williams, it's going to be very interesting to see which one of those guys those 4 guys wind up making the final 53, because we know obviously Saquon is a lock, that's for sure. But then the Giants, they wind up obviously cutting down. It had to get down to 80. Okay, they had 85, had to get down to 80. All right, so they had to, unfortunately, had to make a few moves here. All right, Giants took advantage of a new roster rule which allows teams to move any players on the active PUP list at the start of training camp to the inactive PUP list. And in this case, the Giants moved offensive lineman Matt Parrott, Nick Gates, who are on the active PUP list, counted against the roster totals, and they moved them to the inactive status. So basically, the guys, some of the guys that weren't participating at all, they were part of the 5 guys that the Giants had to trim the roster down. Now, obviously, next Tuesday when it rolls around, that's when all the teams got to go from 80 down to 53. You're going to have 32 teams cutting 27 players. You're going to have a boatload of guys out there, to keep your eye on. So, which in a way will be good, very good for the Giants because, we have some weaknesses, it's in some areas, and so it'll be very interesting to see, what the Giants wind up doing next week after all those guys wind up getting let go. All right, let's see. Although Gates and Parrott, not expected to be ready to return at all this year. All right, the change in their status means that they not only no longer count against the roster total, but they must remain on the inactive PUP list for at least a minimum of 4 weeks, which is down from 6 weeks in the past years. All right. And the Giants also placed 3 players on season-ending injury reserve, including 2 from the same position group. Right. 3 players, unfortunately, Darian Beavers. I'll tell you what, their draft class, it's like almost like one by one. they're falling. Good old Darian Beavers had a very, very good training camp so far. He's trying to make a name for himself. Hopefully, but looks like his first year is going to be cut short. He suffered the torn ACL in Sunday's preseason win over the Bengals. Tight end Ricky Seals-Jones, who had a toe injury. I don't remember. I think he participated in like one training camp, one or two maybe practices, and he's been MIA since then. So we're finally finding out that he's had a problem with his toe. And Andre Miller with his forearm, which he broke, right? Both of whom were injured earlier in training camp. Now, with the Giants' new roster down at 80, the team is not only thin at tight end, but they're also got some concerns about the offensive line and cornerback depth. So, I mean, it's, which in one respect, when all the teams let go of their players next week, was certainly going to wind up helping because Akins, the Giants got Bellinger, they got Myrick, Ricky Seals-Jones, so he's with his toe, but Akins has been somewhat of a disappointment. So, they could certainly use, without question, some help at tight end. Now, seeing other injury-related news, Sterling Shepard with his Achilles remains on the active PUP list, avoided being moved to the inactive PUP list. All right, so I was kind of wondering there what they were going to wind up doing to him. Okay. Wide receivers coming off the surgery to repair a torn left Achilles tendon was not placed on a reserve physically unable to perform list, keeping him in play to return early this season. So that's good. I mean, you see some videos out there of him running around, running patterns and all and everything, and he looks good. Really, really looks good. So we'll have to wind up saying, can he stay healthy? That's his biggest problem. Biggest problem. I mean, when he's healthy on the field, I mean, he's a huge asset, especially to Daniel Jones. But, I mean, can he stay healthy? That's Shepard is the longest tenured Giants player. He's 29. Wow, he's 29 already. Hard to believe. He got drafted in 2016 in the second round, and he's had more than his share of physical issues. Yeah, you can see that. And his 2021 season ended in week 15 when he tore his left Achilles tendon December 19th against the Cowboys. Shepard played in just 7 games last season due to a quad injury. I mean, now what they got here is that he looks spry running on the sideline in camp. Okay, and the Giants believe he can make it back sometime within the first month. All right, or else they might have put him on the inactive PUP list. But I guess the way he's going, they're kind of kind of hoping that he'll wind up being able to come back and to perform early in the season. I'm kind of hoping so. Yeah, Nathan Kadarius Toney, the number 1 wideout by the end of the season. Well, I don't know. That's kind of up to him. Who we got? Nathan. Does a guy want to play football? I have no idea. It's absolutely just amazing. Boggles my mind. I mean, he got drafted in the first round. All the money I get, is pretty much guaranteed that he has on his contract. So, I mean, I'm not sure if he's like, okay, I got my money. I'm going to see where this goes or whatever. A guy can't even make it through training camp. The guy can't make it. I mean, he had he was on COVID twice last year, 6 different injuries last year, 6 that kept him out of games. 6. I mean, you got guys there every game like Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, button heads every play, running and Kadarius Toney we can't even put him in there for 20 or 30 plays. He comes out and he has an injury. I mean, I'm not sure if the guy really wants to play football. I mean, it is what it is. If you don't want to play football, or if it's not in your heart or whatever, there ain't nothing wrong with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong. If it's just not, in the deck of cards for you, fine. But, don't keep stringing everybody along. I mean, I got a little bit of article here, which is kind of like why I put in my in the thumbnail that Daboll seems maybe a little upset with maybe Golladay and Kadarius Toney, because I mean it's like Kadarius Toney's just your best ability, your availability, and Kadarius Toney has not shown that whatsoever. I mean, he's all smiles and this, that, and the other thing and whatnot, and I don't know if the guy really wants to play football. Just to be honest with you, you try to give him a clean slate because you got the new coaching staff and all that, but they don't seem very impressed with him. He can't even stay healthy in training camp. I mean, he couldn't stay healthy last year. Can't say. I mean, he had problems with his cleats. I mean, have you ever heard of that before? Problems with your cleats. And then he had 2 times on COVID, and he had 6 different injuries last year. I mean, are you serious? How did he make it through high school? How did he make it through college? I mean, it's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. But then I got this one article here, okay, with the Giants wide receiver competition. Did Brian Daboll send a message to Kenny Golladay and others? Now, because don't forget, right? David Sills, Alex Bachman are pushing for roster spots, and so is Colin Johnson. All right, now don't forget, Colin Johnson has had 10 receptions in the first 2 preseason games. Okay, Alex Bachman just had 11 receptions in the win against and the 2 touchdowns and over 122 yards, I think it was, in the preseason win over the Bengals. So, all right, so I mean, you got some guys out here, trying to, especially like with Board, Sills, Bachman, those guys have been around. I mean, they come to training camp, they work their rear ends off, this, that, and the other thing. And, if long as they're not getting hurt, they wind up on the practice squad. When Shepard, Kadarius Toney, Golladay, when those guys wind up injured, well, then we go to the practice squad. And maybe we bring a Board up or a Sills up or a Bachman up or something like that, maybe for a game here or there or whatever. But these guys are trying to make the roster. I said Johnson and Sills and Bachman. And I'm really, really interested to see how many wide receivers they wind up keeping. Okay. And, which wide receivers those are. I mean, especially with Darius Slayton, too. I mean, I'm going to say, is the guy even on the team? I mean, I'll tell you what, I am not hearing much anything at all about him, which is not necessarily good news. Okay. Now, when Daboll, okay, I got this article here. Okay. It's Big Blue View, SB Nation. It says, Giants wide receiver competition. Did Brian Daboll send message to Kenny Golladay and others? All right. When he was asked about his wide receiver depth chart recently, New York Giants head coach Brian Daboll issued what he can only be interpreted as a loud and clear message to some of the high-profile receivers on the roster. I would just say the 5 best or 6 best players or 7 best. That would be interesting if we kept 7. However many we're going to keep. The guys that have been out there and producing, okay, Colin Johnson, David Sills, they've stepped their game up, and they're right in the mix. Not just to make it a team, but to play. Interesting, Daboll said. So again, like I said, everybody's got to earn their job, earn their role, do a good job of the things that they need to do, and make the most of the opportunities when they get them. Absolutely. While that may have partially been intended to complement the excellent summer work, yes, turned out by Johnson and Sills and now Bachman, okay? It certainly also has to be intended to get the attention of a few other players, like Kenny Golladay, okay, who is unproductive in 2021 and has only looked like a dominant player on rare occasions this summer. I mean, in the training camp, I've heard a couple, every now and then Golladay made a couple good catches here, a good contested catch there or something. But I mean, for the most part, not much. I mean, I'm sure he might be on the chopping block after this season's over with because they can let him go. They'll save about $7 million if they wind up letting him go. So it'll be interesting to see if they want to. I mean, I think he's counting like $21 million toward the cap, I think, next year. If they let him go, it's $14 million in dead cap space. So they'll save about $7 million. Okay. So, which is a nice chunk of change. A lot of dead cap, but, let's see. Oh, SNL slime ball. Yo. I like that. That's cool. I think Colin Johnson will take Kenny G's job by the end of the season. Well, they're both, the beauty of both of them, especially Colin Johnson, his height. Kenny Golladay, his height, right? Johnson looks like, he wants to make the team. And the one thing is that sometimes you get complacent, I mean, I'm good. I got paid. I'm not saying Kenny Golladay slack or nothing like that, but you get a little complacent. But I'll tell you what, when you're Johnson, right, and you may not make the team, you don't want to be on a practice. You want to play. You spill your guts out. You do whatever it takes, to get on the team. And I'll tell you what, he's done a very good job, and he's got the height too. So Kenny Golladay better watch out for him. As I said, after this season, Kenny Golladay might be gone anyway, right? I mean, Daboll and Shane have no ties to him whatsoever. I think the hardest room to make cuts on this year is the running back room. I tell you, I tell you what, Brightwell has had some good. I've seen some good film on him. He's done pretty good. And gosh, then he has the special teams, which he's very good for. Jashawn Corbin, I hope we can get one or so of those guys on the practice squad. Doesn't mean that we're going to protect them. Somebody else might be able to come and pluck them away. But I'm very interested to see. I guess we're looking at probably 3 running backs. We'll wind up keeping on the final 53. But I'm kind of interested to see. You got Saquon. Does Williams or does Breida come number 2? Or are we going to keep Breida and Williams? Right, and then Brightwell and Corbin. And I don't think Platt-Scummer is going to, make the final 53. But does Brightwell, who has no ties to Shane or Daboll, does he wind up making it? Very, very interesting. I'm very anxious to see what they do with the wide receivers too. To some of the positions we got, it's like like tight end, right? The offensive line. We're kind of thin at some spots, but there are a couple of position groups, like I said, like we were talking about the running back and wide receivers, where they got some good depth there, and it'd be a shame to see which guys come, which guys wind up going. Let's see. Then let's see. Kenny Golladay. All right, Kadarius Toney, who has now spent more time on the sidelines this training camp and preseason than he has on the practice field. I mean, it's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Like Sterling Shepard, who looked good running routes on the side, the field last week, but remains physically unable to the PUP list as of the writing, because of his torn Achilles. So, I mean, our guys are, our top guys are just, injury prone. And I love Sterling Shepard to death. The man could be on my team anytime. I'll take him anytime. The guy just can't stay healthy. And I'm not sure if Kadarius Toney wants to play football, and I think Kenny Golladay, right. I say he might be gone after this year too. So the message, right, that Daboll might be sending to Golladay, your 4-year, $72 million contract, which your previous regime gave you, isn't going to get you on the field. Now, when Johnson and Sills are making the plays, your contract and your history says you should be making. That's right. To Kadarius Toney, your status as a 2021 first-round pick doesn't mean anything if you can't get on the practice field. I mean, your best ability is your availability. If you're not available, it doesn't matter what you can do. I mean, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter what you can do. To Sterling Shepard, we have options if you can't get on the field and show us that you will be ready to contribute when the season opens. As a new regime with a first-year head coach in Daboll and first-year GM Oshane has the ability, you might even say the luxury, of this approach. They have no ties to Golladay, Shepard, Kadarius Toney, and Darius Slayton, or any of the players they did not bring to the organization, right? So, I mean, you got guys in there spilling their guts, wanting to play football, right? I mean, you've seen what Alex Bachman did. I mean, man, had a hell of a game. All right, their legacies, their reputations as evaluators, their jobs are not tied to any of those the receivers: Golladay, Shepard, Toney, Darius Slayton. I mean, have you heard anything about Darius Slayton at all? Anything? I've got him, one of these still even on the team, right? These types of players at wide receiver and elsewhere will get on the field and perform, or they won't. And if they don't, they'll be replaced, right? So let's take a look at some of the guys pushing for their roster spots and some playing time, right? Now we got David Sills, right? David Sills had 29 snaps, came in the first half primarily with the first team offense. All 5 of his catches came on passes from Daniel Jones. Okay. Sills is a guy who's been on the periphery of the Giants roster for years now. He always comes to camp, right? He, maybe has a good camp and all, but he never seems to wind up making the roster. They point out here in 2020, he was possibly going to make the team, but he fractured his foot near the end of preseason and end of the season. He spent most of last season on the practice squad, appearing in 4 games and catching 2 passes for 17 yards. Okay. That's basically what he's been. Annually, Sills has been at training camp, a preseason star. Okay, is yet to translate to the regular season. Then we got Colin Johnson, 6'6", had a very good career in college at Texas. Right, 6'6", 220 pounds, very, very nice size. Jacksonville gave up on him. All right, hopefully the Giants can find something. Some type of role for him. Okay. Johnson's the biggest wide receiver on the roster. It seems like Johnson has done a couple of things to make himself noticed in a positive way during almost every practice attended by Big Blue View. Okay. Which is the people who wrote this article. All right. That is carried into the preseason games. Johnson has 10 receptions, 123 yards, 12.3 yards per reception. Okay. And then, of course, we got Alex Bachman. All right. Like Sills, it feels like Bachman has been a Giant forever because, well, he sort of has. Bachman has been a Giant, mostly a practice squad Giant, since the middle of the 2019 season. In all that time, he's been active for 4 games and has yet to catch a pass. He does have a rushing attempt, a punt return, and 4 kickoff returns on his resume. He also has a chip on his shoulder, which is good. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I like it. And they got other guys too. They're writing, the writing of this article, right? They wouldn't be surprised at Darius Slayton being waived or traded. Okay, possibly traded, right? Because keeping him on the roster as a 5th or 6th wide receiver is a salary cap hit of $2.6 million. Okay, Don't forget Robert Foster appeared to have a chance to make the roster before suffering a hamstring injury that landed him on the IR. But, that's just a hamstring. Okay. That's not a season ending in it or anything like that. Okay. Then also don't forget about Richie James, who's going to emerge as the team's top kick and punt returner. Okay. So, I mean, then you got, which might want to make him somebody like CJ Board more expendable. All right. And also then you got Keelan Dawson, Marcus Kemp, right? I mean, they're not going to make the team, but I mean, we got a decent amount of guys, a nice luxury, okay, of guys, which usually we don't wind up having something like that at the wide receiver position. So, if, as I said, if Toney doesn't want to get on the field, if Golladay doesn't, perform, we have other options. And the thing is, it seems like, the minds, the offensive minds that we have, okay, on the team this year, meaning Daboll, Kafka, so on and so on and so on. Those offensive minds that they have, unlike last year with the Clapper, okay, the guys that we got, they'll be able to see who they have on the field and be able to put those guys in the best position to be successful. I'm not saying if Alex Bachman winds up being, one of the starters, right, then he's going to catch 8 or 9 balls again. I'm not saying that, but or Colin Johnson, if he winds up taking over for Kenny Golladay, where I'm not saying he's going to catch 8 or 9 balls a game, but they'll put them in better positions to be more successful than, Jason Garrett. Okay. Now, as I said, let's not forget, a lot of it's got to do with, sometimes it's the play calling. All right. Look what Pat Shurmur did. Okay. When he was calling plays. All right. Saquon had a good year. Okay. So the guys, calling the plays. All right. Can have a lot to do with the success, not only of the team, but of the players on the field. So I'll be very, very interested to see. But so we're down to 80. All right. So we got coming up in 1 week, we're going to see the other 27 guys that don't make the team and who winds up on the practice squad. But that's been about 30 minutes. All right. Anybody out there? Anybody? Hey, the comments here. Thank you, Nathan. And thank you, SNL Slimeball. You guys freaking rock. Anybody spend any time at all, I greatly appreciate it. Anybody's going to watch this replay, thank you so much. You guys freaking rock as well, too. And once again, thank you so much for just taking time out of your day or your night to check out this video. You guys stay safe out there, all right? And go Giants! Woo!